Hi, I'm Jeff Gundy, and welcome to Cooking with Comics, where we learn about the weirdest concoctions my fellow comedians have made in the kitchen and what was going on with them at the time. Today, I'm talking with Andy Johnson. Andy, you've been a traveling comic this year, including taking in a show in Phoenix and then realizing that that was the weekend of the Super Bowl, which just, of course, happened to be going on in, of all places, Phoenix. How did that end up affecting things for you down there?
It was really weird. When I took the show, it was a couple of months before the Super Bowl. So I took the show. I was offered the show. I said, sure, I'll do the show. $50. Okay, I'll do the show for $50. I'll travel to Phoenix. Phoenix is a pretty cheap place to travel. You can stay for decent. You can eat for decent. It doesn't have to be super expensive. I wasn't going to make any money, but that was okay. And then I realized that it was Super Bowl Sunday when I tried to get the plane ticket first. And the plane ticket was hundreds of dollars, right? So then I said, well, I better get the hotel. Now I realize at this point there's something up. And so then I started looking for the hotel. And I couldn't find anything, any flea bag, meth-addled hotel for under about $300, right? So the best I could do is I ended up staying 2.5 hours away. And that still cost me a bunch of money. So I had to travel. I didn't get in until 10 o'clock that night, travel about 2 hours and 45 minutes to the hotel the next day. That was Saturday morning. By the time I got to the hotel, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. And then I had to leave again and drive all the way back. It was Flagstaff to Phoenix.
Flagstaff? You're kidding me. It's the opposite corner of the state.
Way up in the mountains. Phoenix is beautiful and warm. There's snow all over the ground in Flagstaff. It's way up there.
Yeah.
I was only... I think I was 6 hours away from Albuquerque. It's way up there. And it's kind of a shithole.
Flagstaff?
Flagstaff, yeah.
It's a little overrated, in my opinion. I mean, if you grew up there, I knew guys who used to skip school and go right to the ski resort. And of course, Grand Canyon's by.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's, a little bit of the Colorado Springs of Arizona, if you will.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's got the tourist spots. But man, your story just makes me think of that AC/DC song. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll, right?
Yeah.
Hotel, motel, make you want to cry.
Yeah. And the thing is so then I came down the mountain to do this show, and I had to leave so early because I didn't know what the traffic was going to be like. And so I really didn't have anything to do in Phoenix. I wanted to stay out of the heavy traffic areas. Anywhere you were going to park, you were going to have to pay for. And so I ended up sleeping in my car in front of the venue for a few hours. I just tipped the seat back. I didn't have any, I wasn't even wearing socks yet. So then I had to get out of my car and try and find a way to get dressed for the show. And I didn't know that the host of the show had been looking out the door of the venue and watching me for about 3 or 4 hours laying in my car sleeping. And when I finally hopped up out of my car, he goes, hey, man, I've been watching you sleep, which is creepy, but what the hell?
Right.
It was a good show. Turned out to be a good show.
Well, did he use that in his opener at least? That, hey, this guy was kind enough to wake up for the show. Are you ready for him? Anything?
No, what he actually did was I was wearing a flannel shirt, much like I am now, because my wife is obsessed with Woodsman, I believe. So she buys me red and blue flannel shirts. So this is what I wear, and I wear this on stage. And I had a red flannel shirt that night. So when they brought me up to a bunch of hip hop music, which is the exact opposite of what the flannel shirt should be, right? So we had talked about it earlier. So when I got up on stage, I just yelled into the microphone, knock it off. Stop the goddamn music, right?
Right. Give me some Jimmy Buffett at least, something.
Yeah, and then immediately he went into some real twangy banjo on the river type ding 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 ding. So it worked out good. It was a great show.
Oh, good. So the whole thing worked out. Yeah, the things we go through.
It was a lot of fun.
I don't know anybody in entertainment who's been doing any branch of it for more than a year can have an ego. Honestly, I mean, I'm not saying that I don't by any means, but anytime I do, I get reminded by some story that's a little similar to yours that, yeah, this is you.
Yeah.
This is all you are.
Anytime you get a little puffed up, there's going to be somebody with a pin to pop you and get you back down to earth, because there are things that people will do, people will say that will just bring you down. I traveled all the way to Tennessee one time. I thought it was an audition for a comedy club. And when the owner of the club, and it was going to be a 15 minutes, I'm going to go on stage, I'm going to audition to be a feature. And he told me, he says, you got 7 minutes. I traveled all the way there on my dime, paid for the hotel, did everything. He said, "You got 7 minutes." And when I got off stage, I walked past him. He never said a word to me. And I flew home, and then COVID hit. And so it shut down. The venue shut down.
So you kind of got the last laugh.
I kind of got the last laugh for a little while.
Huh.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily wish that even on the biggest asshole who completely misleads you for his own good. Not that that ever happens, but you won that once. So comedy is a craft. It's so demanding. And at least if you're always writing and creating, as is ideal, it's very demanding of our schedules, right? And it can be easy to let other parts of your life fall to the wayside. This is a segue if you haven't noticed.
I love the segue. I don't even know where this is going, but I'm so excited.
We tend to focus on what's going on in the comedian's kitchen at the end of a long day here on this podcast, if you're new here, or at least in your eating life. So are you somebody who considers yourself a cook, first of all?
Yes, I would consider myself a cook. And let me tell you something. I got to tell you this. I'm not just a cook for a hobby. I was actually a cook in the Army.
So mass quantity, like in a hurry.
Mass quantity, cooking for 400 and 500 people. As the story goes, my father, a Marine in the 60s, my uncle, a Vietnam Marine, a relative before that, a Marine in Korea. All of my uncles were in the Army, fought in World War II, saved the world. I decided to become a cook.
Hey, where would they be without you?
Kind of the black sheep of the family, really.
You had a joke about being a cook.
So I enlisted in the Army. I became a cook. And something that really bothers me and bothers most vets is stolen valor. Being something you're not. People pretending to be Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, whatever it might be. What bothers me about stolen valor is nobody ever pretends to be a cook. Ever! So as I got a little older, I found out that the VA has a huge budget for Viagra. A huge budget. Because we're gun nuts, right? We're veterans. We like guns, so they want something to distract us, I think. So they give us Viagra. So I got my order of Viagra. Now, I'm not ashamed to talk about it, because it's just a blue pill, right? But when I got my order for Viagra, there was 4 pills in there. 4 pills for the month. And I called him up. I said, "Doc," I said, "I think there's been a mistake." I said, "You only gave me 4 pills." He said, "You were a cook. How many do you deserve?" I said, "But I've got a wife." He said, "Ooh, watch TV."
Basically what happened was I know from a young age I wanted to be a cook, because when all the kids were running around in the woods playing Army, I was about 100 yards behind them with a canned ham and a dozen eggs under my arm, yelling, "I'll set up back here, guys. Just come back when you're hungry."
And they're like, "Yeah, this guy's weird, but at least he brought the goods."
That's weird, but he feeds us every day. Let him keep coming.
So you must have played Army 7 days a week when you were a kid.
I exactly. They always invited me along. Have him bring donuts. We're going to do an early mission. But I do love to cook. I come from a tradition of people who spent a lot of time in the kitchen. My mom is a really good cook and a baker. My both grandmas, one of them owned a catering company. My other grandma was just a good cook. But they had weird foods too. My grandma used to make Spam macaroni salad.
All right. Poor people's food.
Right. Right. Well, it was the elbow macaroni, Miracle Whip, not mayonnaise. I want to say that to everybody out there. Listen to me. Miracle Whip. Okay, now I know we're going to get some letters here, right? Okay. Andy Johnson Comedy at gmail.com. Send the letters.
I had my face, so I'm on the fence here.
It is not mayonnaise. It's Miracle Whip. I will stand by that. This is the hill I will die on.
How do you feel about veganese?
Is there such a thing?
There is.
Because I don't want to know what is it, plant-based mayonnaise?
Yeah, and it's like $6 for the container. It's
Kinda?
worth it to some.
And how much more does it cost for the garbage can to put it in? Because that sounds horrible.
I think the rate is $24 every 2 weeks. I don't know. I'll have to look at my bills.
Wow, that's crazy. So my grandmother, it was elbow macaroni, Miracle Whip, diced Spam, 1 can of diced Spam, and a can of sweet peas. Libby's
You remember the brand.
sweet peas, not regular peas, sweet peas. You drain them and you put it all together with a large amount of Miracle Whip, and you stir it together and you let it get cold. And don't cook the Spam. A lot of people make that mistake. You don't want to cook the Spam. You want to knock there's that little jelly stuff on the Spam when you take it out. You want to knock that off with a knife.
That's all throughout it too, though. You got to cook it.
Oh, you don't eat Spam cold?
I don't eat it at all anymore, but you and I are close enough in age to where I think our parents came from a typically more broke generation where they ate a lot of things like Spam and kipper snacks and pig's feet and liver. Yeah. So yes, I do come from that background. I am not there anymore.
I do eat it once in a while, but as you get older, of course, your heart says, salt is bad for you. So you got to knock off some things. And I wasn't going to stop eating bacon. So Spam is what had to go.
Choices. All right. Got to balance that.
Yep. Got to make choices. You got to make choices. Yep.
I have a similar one from my mother. It was no Spam in a salad, but just macaroni, cheese, tuna, and peas. And the one that never gets credited, it's like the bass player of the ingredients, it's just carrying an important role, is the cream of mushroom soup.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
To this day, give me that big old bowl of that with some salt and pepper. It's healthy. I mean, everything about it's good.
The thing is that cream of mushroom soup, cream of chicken soup, you can take just about any meat, and if you throw that in the crock pot with a can of cream of mushroom soup, you could make that a decent meal.
Turns into magic. Really is there any other eating situation you've created for yourself, whether in the military or not, that might, I don't know, surprise people, whether it didn't turn out the way you wanted or it did, but it was very unique?
Well, I mean, I remember the first time I ever made Rice Krispie bars. I thought that if the more sugar you put in, the better they would be. And I was an adult doing it.
I was going to ask, how old were you?
I mean, the kids were young, but I remember making these things. We had to throw the pan out. We could never get the Rice Krispie bars out of the pan. It just turned into concrete. And the other thing that turned out bad, shouldn't chicken taste like chicken?
Generally, a lot of things taste like chicken, I've learned. Yeah.
Right. But if you buy chicken, no matter what the form, you would assume chicken would taste like chicken. So I, to save money one time, thought that if I bought a bunch of gizzards, which was cheaper than the chicken meat.
I hope so.
Right? Ugh. They should taste like chicken because it's part of the chicken. So I chopped up a bunch of gizzards and hadn't told the kids. I just chopped up a bunch of gizzards and then cooked them like I would normal.
You poor kids.
It doesn't taste like chicken, yeah.
Oh, that's borderline child abuse. Did you guys finish the meal, or did you realize right away we need something else?
Right away. It didn't even, it ended up not making it past the initial tasting stages.
I'm sure it didn't take long, especially for picky kid eaters. You talk about why wouldn't chicken taste like chicken? I was going to ask you where you bought it, but no, it doesn't matter if it was gizzards. But I had a beef that did not taste like it at all. It was steak. I bought it from Walmart, and it smelled on the grill like burning hair. Where there was no burning hair, I had a nice clean grill. I found out later that some stores will inject some gas into the meat package to keep it from turning other colors besides red. I did not finish that steak. I don't remember what I did instead. I think I lost my appetite, but I hope I don't get sued by Walmart for this, but yuck, guys.
I remember when I first moved to Colorado. I've lived in Colorado since 2009. And soon after that, I found the dollar store, and I think it was in Platteville, maybe Evans, Platteville, something like that. There was a dollar store that sold meat. So it was like the Dollar General, and it was selling New York strip steaks. And so it was like a package of 4 steaks for like $5.
What?
Right. And when I cooked them, they were so tough, they weren't able to be consumed. They were, I think, again, with the can of cream of mushroom soup, you probably could have made them palatable.
Only the cream of mushroom soup could have saved that, if that.
Yeah.
If that.
Exactly.
I don't rule out the meat at the dollar store simply because the Dollar Tree still sells those kipper snacks, aka pickled herring. That is the one thing that I kept from my mom's, upbringing of the weird foods. And I buy that stuff by the dozen because when it's time for one, it's time.
Yeah.
And I know the reviews are mixed, but that's okay. It means there's enough for me.
Yep. I like the sardines and tomato sauce, and I'll even crack open a couple cans of smoked oysters.
I tried with that. I used to love the hot sardines. It's something that, okay, this is a whole separate story I won't go into, but I worked on the carnival in Texas for a summer when I was in my early 20s, trying to figure out what the heck I was doing next in life. But on the way out, traveling with one of those carnies, he's like, yeah, try sardines and hot sauce, man. I'm like, really? The bones and all that stuff? And I was surprised. I don't know if I was just that broke and hungry, maybe, but it was so good. And I went like 20 years without it. And I tried it again a while ago. I'm like, yeah, I think that phase is past. I'm good on the sardines.
Yeah, isn't that weird how some foods are just at certain times in your life? Now, I eat a large amount of pickled herring.
Oh, yes. My soul brother. You posted that once and got a whole bunch of shit for that. I remember.
Yes, I did. Yep. Whiskey and pickled herring. Yeah.
You might as well bring up the flu shot, Biden, everything else if you bring up pickled herring. It's on.
Yeah. You either love it or you hate it.
But yeah, buddy, the deal, it's like $12 for 12 over at Dollar Tree. So, well, I get sued by Walmart. Dollar Tree owes me some royalties. Hopefully it balances itself out.
Yeah, you'd hope so. You would hope so. You always have to find a deal somewhere.
If you're still listening after all of that and you're like, hey, I've lived through a food-related disaster, I should be on the Cooking with Comics podcast. I'm way ahead of you. Hit me up on Instagram or Facebook or email gundy222@gmail.com.